The old colonial house stood on the hill like a skeletal promise, a place forgotten by time. Arjun Rowe, a self-proclaimed historian with a penchant for the macabre, pushed open the heavy tick door. A cloud of dust greeted him, dancing in the slivers of light that pierced the boarded-up windows. Meera followed, her hand instinctively clutching his arm. She felt a chill that had nothing to do with the damp air inside. The house groaned around them, a symphony of creaking floorboards and the distant whistle of wind through cracked panes. "Isn't it magnificent?" Arjun's voice echoed in the cavernous hall. "They say this place was abandoned overnight. No one knows why." Meera just shivered, her eyes darting towards the shadows that seemed to cling to every corner. They moved from room to room, each one a dusty tomb of a lifelong past. Faded portraits with judging eyes, furniture draped in white shrouds like ghosts at rest. It was in the master bedroom, at the very back of the house, that they found it. Propped against the wall on a rusted iron stand was a mirror. It was tall, oval, with an ornate, blackened silver frame. Its surface was surprisingly clean, a stark contrast to the filth surrounding it. Arjun was immediately drawn to it. "Look at this craftsmanship," he breathed, running a finger along the intricate carvings. "It's beautiful." Meera stayed near the doorway. "Arjun." "Something feels wronger about it," he chuckled, his reflection smiling back at him. "It's just an old mirror, Meera. Don't let this spooky house get to you." He leaned closer, examining the details. But as it did, for a split second, he thought his reflection's smile widened unnaturally, its eyes glinting with a coldness that wasn't his own. He blinked, and it was gone, just his own tired face staring back. That night, back in their small apartment, the image of the mirror lingered in his mind. He couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. The next day, against Meera's pleas, he went back to the house. He had to have that mirror. He loaded it into his car, the heavy object feeling colder than it should. Behind the frame, strange symbols were etched into the wood, almost like warnings, but he dismissed them as artisanal marks. He placed it in his study, a small room lined with books and artifacts. It dominated the space, reflecting the quiet order of the room. Meera refused to even look at it. "It has a darkness, Arjun. I can feel it." He laughed it off. "It's a piece of history, that's all." The first incident happened that evening. Meera was walking past the study and screamed. Arjun rushed in to find her pale, pointing at the mirror. "I saw ... I saw myself in there, but it wasn't me. I was lying on the kitchen floor, surrounded by broken glass. ... And there was so much blood." Arjun looked into the mirror. All he saw was his own concerned reflection. He held her, trying to calm her down. It was a trick of the light, a hallucination. "This old house, this mirror, is just getting to you." He tried to believe his own words, but a seed of doubt had been planted. The next morning, Meera was unusually quiet. She avoided the kitchen entirely. Arjun, trying to prove his point, went to make coffee. He reached for a mug. His hand slipped, and the shelf of glassware came crashing down. He stumbled back, unhurt, but the floor was a sea of shattered glass. Meera stood in the doorway, her eyes wide with terror. It was exactly as she had described. A coincidence, Arjun told himself. A freak. Accident, but the cold dread in his stomach told him otherwise. That night, he couldn't sleep. The house was filled with strange noises. Sound like glass slowly cracking. A faint, dry whisper that seemed to come from the study. He finally got up and walked to the room. The mirror stood in the moonlight. It surfaced like a pool of liquid darkness. Hesitantly, he looked in. At first, it was just his own reflection. But then, the image wavered. His face grew gaunt, his eyes hollow. He saw himself, but older, terrified. He was in this very room, clawing at the walls, his mouth open in a silent scream. A shadow moved behind him in the reflection, a formless entity with no face, just empty. Just empty sockets for eyes. The reflected Arjun turned, and the shadow's smoky tendrils wrapped around his throat. Arjun stumbled back from the mirror, his heart hammering against his ribs. The vision vanished. His own panicked face stared back. It was going to happen here. In this room, he noticed a tiny hairline crack near the top of the mirror. It hadn't been there before. The sound of cracking glass. It wasn't a hallucination. The mirror was breaking. Over the next few hours, his denial crumbled into raw fear. He saw things out of the corner of his eyeshadows that danced where none should be. The whispers grew louder, like dry leaves skittering across pavement, forming words he couldn't understand. Meera found him sitting on the floor, staring at the wall opposite the mirror. "You saw it, didn't you?" she whispered. He nodded, unable to speak. "It shows you how you die," she said, her voice trembling. 24 hours before it happens. That's what the legends of these things say. We have to destroy it. Arjun finally choked out. He grabbed a heavy bookend from his desk. As he approached the mirror, his reflection changed again. This time, it wasn't a vision of the future. His reflection was smiling, a cruel, mocking grin. It raised its own hand, mimicking his movement, but its grip wasn't on a bookend. It was holding a shard of jagged glass. The whispers in the room became a chorus, a cacophony of pain. A second crack appeared on the mirror's surface, longer than the first. "Don't, Arjun," Meera cried. "Breaking it might make it worse," but he was beyond reason. He swung the bookend with all his strength, but just as he was about to strike, Meera lunged forward, pushing him out of the way. She stumbled and fell towards the mirror. Time seemed to slow down. Arjun watched in horror as Meera's hands went up to brace herself against the surface. As her palms touched the glass, the mirror flared with an unnatural, blinding light. The entire room shook. The sound of 1,000 panes of glass shattering filled the air, but the mirror itself remained intact. All the cracks, however, had vanished. It was pristine again. The light subsided. Meera was gone. Arjun scrambled to the mirror, his hands pressing against the cold, unyielding surface. "Meera! Meera!" He screamed her name until he was hoarse. He saw only his own desolate reflection, tears streaming down his face. Where was she? What had happened? Then he saw it. Deep within the reflection, behind his own image, a figure was standing in the darkness. It was Meera. She was pale, translucent, her eyes filled with an endless sorrow. She raised a hand, pressing it against the glass from the inside, her lips moving, but no sound came out. She was trapped inside the mirror. A new sound began, a low, guttural chuckle that seemed to come from the mirror itself, and from the shadows of the room all at once. The shadow entity he had seen in his vision began to coalesce behind Meera's ghostly form, its hollow eyes fixed on Arjun. It had taken her instead of him. Her sacrifice had bought him his life, but condemned her to an eternity of imprisonment. He sank to his knees, his spirit broken. The reflection showed a man shattered by grief, but the true horror was what he now understood. The mirror didn't just foretell death. It was a prison. It showed you your final moments to fill you with terror, and at the last second, it offered a choice: your soul, or the soul of someone who intervenes. Meera had made her choice. He was alive. Was free, but every time he dared to look at his own reflection, in any window, any puddle, any polished surface, he would see her, trapped behind the glass, forever staring back from the mirror of doom. This was the mirror of doom. If you want more terrifying stories just like this, subscribe to DKR Mystica. Share this video with the brave ones, and remember, some reflections should never be seen.